Hi and welcome to CLLI Marketing. Today we're going to be talking about how to create a safe island for your CCTV setup or closed circuit television setup. In the previous segment, we've already discussed how to create a safe island for equipment in your home. We go through a three-step process. Now let's go through what this three-step process is. The first step is to identify the equipment that you want to protect, as well as the external connections going in and coming out of those equipment. The second step is to make sure that you unify all the equipment into a single system, and the third step is to ensure correct CLLI or correct lightning isolator installation. Now let's take a look at the first step for a CCTV setup, shall we? Now we need to identify the equipment within a CCTV setup. Now in this case, we're going to take a look first at an indoor DVR or digital video recorder setup. You would see in a common DVR setup, you would have the DVR itself and the monitor. Okay? Once you've identified the equipment you want to protect, we can then proceed to the external connections going in or coming out to these equipment. You can see here that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 external connections. Okay? We shall go through the external connections one at a time. Now this is a VGA connection. Okay? But this VGA connection is connected to the monitor. Both the monitor and the DVR is actually drawing power supply from the same source. So this connection would be considered an internal connection. Alright. Moving on, this is your BNC connection, which will be connected to your CCTV cameras. This will be considered an external connection. This is the RJ45 LAN connection, which will be connected to your router or switch or LAN for IP-based DVR, like this one. And of course you have the power supply, which is connected to a wall outlet. So now that we've established what the external connections are, we can now take a look and see how we unify the equipment in this setup into a single system. Now that we've identified the external connections coming in and going out of this system, let's take a look and see how we unify the equipment in this setup into a single system. Now to do that, we need first to use the correct lightning isolator for each external connection mentioned. For the BNC connector, we already have the MDBNC0E lightning isolator. For the LAN port, we already have the SLAN1236 lightning isolator. For the power supply to the DVR and the monitor, we are already using the MDSC0039 power isolator. Now let's take a look at these individual isolators first, okay? Now for the MDSC0039, you'd notice that it's plugged directly through a single wall outlet. This is important because the isolator needs to draw power supply directly from the wall outlet, or in other words, it has to be the first point of contact from the wall. Okay, you'd also notice that we never mix or bundle the external connections from the internal safe connections to avoid any undesirable results like damaged equipment. Okay? Let's take a look at the other lightning isolator, the MDBNC. Okay, a point to note in this particular isolator is that it is actually quite small in nature, and such it's a little bit fragile. So to avoid any undesired results during installation, excessive force should never be applied. Okay, let's take a look at how we install the MDBNC. Now, this would be the coaxial cable that is connected to your CCTV camera. Ensure that the MDBNC is static at all times. Plug the coaxial cable into the MDBNC's connector and twist the coaxial cable. Okay? Again, twist the coaxial cable. Never twist the MDBNC. Okay? If you use excessive force and twist the MDBNC, the BNC connector here may give way and you will lose a signal contact. Okay? So to prevent undesirable results, always remember that the coaxial cable is the one that's doing the twisting and the MDBNC remains static like such. Okay? On to the next one. The LAN port, we have the SLAN or SLAN1236. Just connect the short cable that says to machine right to your DVR, and then plug the RJ45 LAN cable, which is connected to your LAN setup or switch or router, okay, for IP-based DVRs. Okay, Now the other thing that we need to take note is that you probably notice that there are two green wires coming out of the MDBNC itself and the CLLI. What are you supposed to do with these two wires? Now, this is a very important step to make sure that the equipment here are unified into a single system. These two green wires are to be connected back to the power isolator, in this case the MDSC0039. So what you need to do is to unscrew the two earth terminals here, plug the first green wire into the first terminal of the MDSC0039, screw it back down, plug the second wire from the SLAN1236 into the MDSC0039 and screw it back down. Okay. Now once this is done, the two green wires are connected to here, your whole system has been unified, your whole equipment setup has been unified into a single system. Now for a case where you're using multiple BNC connectors or multiple MDBNC isolators, you would have more than two green wires. Use an earth bus to first unify or to first coordinate all the green wires, and then one green wire from the earth bus will be connected to the MDSC0039. Okay, now this step is very important. If you miss this step, there are two things that will happen. The first is performance issues, which is undesired ghosting or lag or horizontal waves on your camera. And the next one will be a protection issue. Even if you use all the isolators described here and not unify them to the power isolator, in this case the MDSC0039, your equipment can still get damaged. Okay? So this is how you create an effective safe island for your DVR setup. In the next segment, we're going to be talking about how to create an effective safe island for your CCTV camera. So stay tuned and thank you for your time. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at how to create a safe island for your CCTV camera. As in the previous segment on how to create a safe island for your DVR, we are still going to go through the same three-step process. And the first step is to identify the equipment you want to protect as well as the external connections. The second step is to ensure that you unify the equipment into a single system. The third step is to ensure that you use the correct lightning isolator and ensure correct lightning isolator installation. So let's take a look at the first step. Now, you want to protect in this particular case a CCTV camera. Now, this is a fixed CCTV camera operating at 12 volts DC and maximum current consumption of 1 amp. Okay. What about the external connections? The external connections here are the DC input coming in from the AC-DC adapter, as well as the coaxial cable connecting to the DVR. Okay, so that's step one. You've identified the equipment you want to protect, as well as the external connections here. Now step two is to make sure that you unify the equipment into a single system. Now to do that, you need to first use the correct lightning isolator model. Now let's take a look. For the DC input, we're going to introduce the DCJ-cu 12V1A lightning isolator. Let's just put it here for a bit. And for the BNC connector, which is connected to the coaxial cable to your DVR, we are going to introduce the MDBNC0E lightning isolator model. Just leave this here for a bit. So now that you know which lightning isolator to use, let's see how we incorporate both lightning isolators for your CCTV camera. Let's start with the DC input. We first remove the DC connection, and then we're going to cut and reconnect the DC input to the DCJ-cu 12V1A lightning isolator. And for illustration purposes, this is how it's going to look like after it's been cut and reconnected. Okay, it's going to look like this. So the first thing you need to do is to cut this end, connect it to the in terminal of the DCJ-cu, which is the supply coming in from the AC-DC adapter, and then the DC jack that has been cut, you reconnect it back to the out terminal of the DCJ-cu 12V1A. Okay? You would notice that it's stated in and out here, which means that you need to follow the convention. Again, in comes from your supply, out goes to your camera. You'll also notice that there is a terminal 1 and 2 here. Terminal 1 and terminal 2 is supposed to be used for plus or negative of the supply. So if you use number 1 for your positive, then make sure the whole row is positive. If you use number 2 for positive, then make sure the whole row is positive. Okay? So once you've cut and reconnected the DC jack back to the DCJ-cu 12V1A, go ahead and connect it back to your CCTV camera. Okay? Next, the BNC connector. Now, as in the DVR setup, remove the coaxial cable from your CCTV camera. Okay? And then now we're going to introduce the MDBNC. So reconnect the MDBNC 0E into the CCTV camera's BNC connector. And then here again, we're going to make sure that the MDBNC 0E remains static at all times, and the coaxial cable is the one that does the twisting. Okay? Once it goes in, twist it and lock. Again, MDBNC remains static, coaxial cable is the one that does the twisting. In and lock. Okay? So that's how we install both the lightning isolators for your CCTV camera. Now the last step to do is to make sure that the green wire of the MDBNC is connected to the DCJ-cu earth terminal. Okay, make sure it's connected to the out segment of the DCJ-cu earth terminal. So I'm just going to connect it in right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to screw it down. Okay. Now once that is done, you've effectively ensured correct CLLI installation, and you've effectively created a safe island for your CCTV camera using the DCJ-cu 12V1A lightning isolator as well as the MDBNC 0E lightning isolator. So thank you for your time and stay tuned for the next segment.